So I've been with Electric Motion for 25 years, basically working through products developed through basically all our products are kind of developed from the end user. So our customers are like AT&T, Verizon, Charter, Comcast, all the independent phone companies. So a lot of times I would make calling on these independents, standards teams on the bigger tier 1 markets. And from that, we learned a lot of stuff of the outside plant world, and our factory kind of went directly at that market, meaning all of our equipment inside here, a lot of the stuff we do all ourselves. We don't do a ton of outsourcing. Most of the stuff is made in-house. So anyways, this is the first one. So everybody knows enclosures. We came out with a new MST case. An MST is basically a multi-port service terminal that has all the ports for your, basically that's running a fiber cable to your house. So we've been working on different types of swing arms, and especially now for other splice cases that they're using instead of an MST, they use a standard kind of a round splice case or a Windsor splice case, a CommScope splice case. And basically all we're trying to do is get that splice case up off the ground. The reason for that is a lot of times if these fill up with water and it's the wintertime, they'll freeze, and you don't want any water migrating into that splice case. And that will cause attenuation, which means the signal of the light form as it's traveling gets disrupted. So then they have to go in there and change that whole thing out, which takes hours. These are the new splice cases. I'm sorry, MST swing arms, specifically for that function. We have various sizes based off of the size of the box, whether it's a 1730 or something smaller. So we have 3 different sizes. It's basically a small, medium, and large. This here is just a standard plate that has the same type of pattern on it. So this would be a little cheaper way of getting it off the ground, where you can just attach this to the wall of the enclosure, mount your MST on it. You can actually stack up multiple side by side. Oops. Okay. We also do stuffs for the vault and pedestals. This is basically our isolation ground switch. This can come in a Rhino marker post already installed because we sell it to Rhino to go in there. We also sell it directly to other manufacturers or in the field. If they have marker posts that have no hardware on it, they can attach this to it. And you can see a couple of the applications in a handhole. We do one that has a little ground bracket. We do one that goes on a vault. Basically, what's nice about this feature is that, let's see if this side. Basically, this can handle basically the locating aspect of it. So I got a fiber cable coming into a splice case. So it has an armor on it, or I'll have a trace wire that's going to it, that's tracing the fiber optic cable down the street. So what you can do is you can bring that connection point, that locating point, up to this switch, and you have a ground position in it. And so when the locator comes to put his transmitter down, basically all he has to do is clip on to that cable that's running, we'll say, north down the street or south down the street. Now flip the lever up and that isolates it from ground. So the signal is not going on all the utilities that are in that area. It's going on that one specific cable. And that allows them to get a strong locating tone. And when I say that, basically they're putting a frequency on there, like 512 hertz. And you'll see, if you don't understand that aspect, when you drive down the street and you see these yellow lines that are been painted like on the asphalt, yellow's for gas, orange is communication, blue is for water. So basically it's kind of like call before you dig. So that's what the locator's doing. So when they go in there to do the service, there's no disruption or digging up something. We actually have a new connector coming out for that market. pretty soon. This is just a larger version of that. We've had customers that came to us and wanted more positions. So we just recently started making these. Same thing. You can just isolate it. It comes with different mounting plates, so you can mount it to the wall. Okay, now I'll tell you the story on this. Hori Telephone, which is basically Myrtle Beach, came to me, and what was happening was they're using a bonding harness running into that splice case. And what would happen is that handhole would fill up with water. So basically it's going inside the splice case to a shield connector on the armor cable. Then it's coming out of the box, being sealed, and then going up to a ground point on the sidewall of the box. Well, what happened with the normal wire, it's kind of like a tube, like a straw. So it would fill up and actually go down the insulation on the inside and go right into the splice case and fill it up with water. So we developed this. We have different various lengths, but the solid water blocking part proof is designed to go up inside the splice case, attach that shield connector, and then you come around and that would come out of there. It would be sealed up with the grommets, and then it goes to attached to the grounding point. And now water can't get in the box and cause, or into the fiber splice case and cause that. And again, we do that in various lengths. This is just another product that came from a customer. They say have a marker post and it's 10 feet away, and you're bringing up the splice case ground is going to go up into that. And so that could be 12 feet long and go into that marker post where it's grounded. If they have to work on that splice case, they pick it up and they take it out of the enclosure and they put it in the truck or under a tent and they're working on it with the splices. We came up with this design, and the one on the left is just basically a smaller lead, let's say 2 feet, going into the splice case, or 3 feet, whatever you need for length. Could be like the harness that was on the page before this. And then the other one's going up into the marker post. So the reason for this is when they take this off and bring it and put it up, they're only taking out 3 feet of wire. The old way of doing it was undoing it from the marker post and then snaking that out of the conduit 10 feet, bringing it in the truck. Then when they get all done, put it back in the handheld, they have to re-snake all those bonding harnesses back up to that marker post and reattach. If that makes sense to you, but it's time saving. Or it could just be used for flat trace wire drops where they want it isolated. We have one customer doing that. Oops. This is another connector design basically for microducts or the fiber optic flat drop that runs to your house that has a trace wire on it. It can go up inside this unit and has a little lever that swings, and it basically makes an IDC connection, which stands for insulation displacement connection. So we do it for microduct. That's what this version here is on with the larger range size. They're typically 20 gauge wires into that microduct as a trace wire. The other one on that flat drop is 24 gauge, where they make a slit in it and they bring that to a locating point. The black connector on the top right corner, excuse me, works with Nepco mule tape that's traceable. It originally started for Fios for Verizon when they started that. They would basically run that down the street. They can bring it to a ground point and they put all the trace wires up into it, like in a neighborhood. The one below that, Verizon decided partway through different parts of the country, went to a copper clad steel. Sorry, my phone rang. Trying to do it if I can. Sorry. So they went to copper clad steel for a 12 gauge. So that's what the bottom one is. That will do 12 gauge copper clad steel for trace wire. Now this is that fiber optic flat drop I was telling you about. The lower picture on the right is a MST that would have all your drops on it running to the house. Well, we had a customer where they were installing this and they're going through the backyards. So instead of being out by the road, it went through between the houses through the backyards. Hello? I can't talk. All right. Sorry about that. let me go back up. So anyways, what they were doing is they were running this flat drop to the house. So they needed a way of rounding it inside the enclosure. So we developed this connector where we made a slit through the jacket. We're not going into the fiber cable. We're just making like a little 8-inch slit. That connector would go around that and again, another IDC connection point. And so you just close that up, that snaps together, it's got gel in it. And then you would typically tie wrap it for strain relief to the edge, and they would bring that up to a ground point. So we had some issues with that being pulled because they weren't putting a tie wrap on it for strain relief. So we came up with this version. This actually sits inside the unit. And you can see there's a picture of what I'm talking about with the flat drop with the tone wire. This just cradles around that. You do the same slit, slide that over, snap it in. There's gel. When these IDC teeth come down, basically you're just nicking the wire on each side, making a connection. These are used in pedestal applications at the house for the ONT, optical network terminal. And again, these can also come, I don't have my page in here. These could also come with green harnesses that are a 12 gauge and they're different lengths. We have a lot of customers that buy that and they buy it like a kit. So if you have any interest in that, I've got literature on that. Okay. This is an displacement connector. This is a new one for fiber optic cable. What's being depicted right here is just basically an aerial installation. So basically how this works, you can see the teeth on the top. When you put this clamp on, you take it, you clamp it on. I think there's a thing in here that does it. When you clamp this on, you tighten this down, it's going to make a connection to the armor shield that's on that fiber optic cable. We're not penetrating it, we're just making a connection to it. In the aerial application, they would bring that up and then they would put it to a strand clamp. And now you're bonding that armor. Something happened to a couple of my slides. All right. Okay, I'm missing some slides. Okay. Basically, why we're doing that, we're preventing what happens typically in that aerial application. If you're up north, we'll say that, and it's raining and then it freezes on your cables that are aerial. And if they get hit by lightning over time, the lightning pits tiny little holes in that shield. And then over time, when the water gets down there and then it freezes, that will migrate into the cable and start to cause attenuation to that cable. And what will happen is they will go inside that cable and they'll have to go back up and they'll splice a span that could be 20 feet long. By doing that, it costs a lot of money. I got to have a truck rolled out, splicer, redo all the splicing, put a closure there. So we're trying to show the traditional method compared to the IDC bonding clamp. So you can see the cost is a lot less to use this connector. And the way it used to be done is you have these long runs and spans. So a company like Bell Canada that really loves this product, and we worked with them to develop it for Corning's cable. It'll work on Superior Essex that I've worked with, OFS, and other manufacturers of fiber optic cable, Prism. So you can see it's very cost savings. I don't know if it's on the next slide or they took it off. Oh, anyways, this is the connector. This is what I was looking for before. If I go back to the, I'll bring it up afterwards. Okay, so basically we have a small, medium, large, and all that means is your cable diameter. So a 1/4-inch diameter cable, 0.25 to 0.47 cable OD, or a 0.48 cable OD, 0.79. That's the traditional one that we did for Corning. That covered all the way from a 6 fiber to a 288 fiber. That's why they liked it. Then Superior Essex came with a larger cable, and we developed basically 0.80 to 1.3 OD diameter of that cable. It's much larger. So we developed that for Superior Essex. And basically, like I was saying, you see the little teeth on the inside there, that's filled with gel around it. And basically, we're going to seal the connection point on it.
Hey, John, can you go back to that previous slide?
Yeah.
The one that you were doing the cost comparison?
Yeah.
So right there on the left-hand side, the traditional method where you have new bonding closure and you have a dash and then you have a cost to $80.
Yeah.
What's the typical name, or I mean, any typical product that's used or manufacturer?
No, this kind of came from Charlie's team.
Okay.
In Henline. They looked at what it would cost to take and take out that span. And this would be the traditional way. And that's where kind of we got the cost from.
Okay.
Because they've worked in that field for so long.
Okay.
So that's what that was about. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to show you up at this top picture, so it has gel in there. Over on the right-hand side, you can almost see it, but there's a little orange ground underneath the teeth of this. And that it's basically a rubber silicon pad, kind of used in the automotive industry. And what that does, as this cable will expand and contract throughout the seasons, gets cold, gets hot, it expands and contracts. That little piece maintains the connection. It acts like a spring. So basically, it's real easy for the installer, especially in an aerial application. You can just snap that down. It clicks, it stays together. Used during your channel locks, it'll expand back up a little bit due to that little spring action. You just take your screwdriver and you tighten it down till it fully seats, or until 15 inch-pounds that we have in the spec. And again, the one on the right showing belt. They really shuffled this around me today. Okay, so now this is for an underground application. Did some of this for can't think of the cell tower company. It'll come back to me. Anyways, this basically is an enclosure. So basically, you're making the same connection, doing the same thing, but I'm going to bury it. So in that environment, I don't want any water or anything getting into it. So this protects that connection point when it's buried in a buried application. And it's very easy to use. You can kind of see a cutout on the top hand right, just showing them that's where the connector be on the inside, and then it engulfs that connection. That's what you're connecting. The gel on the teeth is protecting that area. We're just trying to basically, where the ground harness connection is, we're protecting. This is the 8130. Right now, currently, Bell Canada buys the 4879, but we'll say the medium, the large, this one, for larger cables. And because of the cutouts from those freeze busts that we just discussed, they found by implementing this and putting it on, the cable will say every quarter mile. It has saved them over $300,000 per year of having to send out trucks to do the cutouts, to do the maintenance on the lines. So they're very happy with this. And again, just fibers to the home solutions. This one happened to be for electric co-op that we're working with, that's doing various things on these build outs. So right now we're putting in different products into that field, different type of SKUs. We can kit certain things with other parts if needed. Again, just overall trying to help the network and maintain the reliability of the network. This is kind of the stuff we can do in-house under this roof. So we make our own screws. People say, why? Well, we have certain lengths and certain sizes that you can't just buy off the shelf. It helps reduce and lower our costs, which can be passed on to you guys and then on to the end user. We have some test capability here. We also utilize Burndy's test lab because we're located in Connecticut. They're just right up in New Hampshire. like 3 hours from us. We have injection molding, so we do all our plastic, all those like the teeth I was showing you on that, all the metal stampings. We do die casting here. We have CNC machines. We do a lot of braid winding for a lot of different products like our Ultra Bond, the braid with eyelets. And then these are kind of our categories that kind of we get into high runners like the meter box clamps, the bonding braid that I just mentioned, self-tapping terminals that you just screw on. This is actually better than a crimp because it doesn't pull off. Actually, the wire would net down and then break apart, would not pull out of the connector, unlike a crimp that grabs the sides. And then we do a lot of ground blocks. That's kind of what I got for questions and answers. And what would you like to know or go back for me to tell you?
John, I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So the gel like on that bond clamp closure, could you explain what like the gel's like purpose and like why is it kind of important for that?
On which one? On the teeth or on what I got up?
Yeah,
now?
like the one that's up right now.
Okay. All right. See the top right photo? So where this connection is, this is the only thing exposed. Those teeth are covered in gel and water can't migrate in there. But when I bury this, see this connection point here? That's what I'm protecting, is basically that section. I'm sealing that. So that way, the reason for that, it should explain, if I'm going to locate and there happens to be water there, it's going to short out. That connection point will short out and I won't get good tone if I wanted to tone this out, to basically do my locating. Put my transmitter on, send signal down this armor to locate it. That's what that's serving as. That makes sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. Were there any other questions while we have John on the line?
Hey, John, for the sake of the people on here that are actually going to sell these products, we talked about Bell Canada, who's a big proponent of the IDC. Where do we stand with like the AT&Ts, the Verizons, the Frontiers, people like that?
We're still working on it. They do different applications. It's really weird. I'm working with another customer that I'm working with you on. They actually use armor aerial. So I'm hoping to show them this connector because I think this will help them. The other feature is they do all the dielectric that you would think would be in the air is buried. They bury their dielectric, meaning there's no armor on it. But people don't understand that. They're putting a trace wire along that fiber optic cable so they can go back and they can locate it. A lot of times in the market, you're going to see, typically they use 12 gauge, except for the flat drops like this, that has the 24. Locating wire, NEPCO has a trace safe that we helped develop a connector for. And we have a new connector coming out very similar to that. That's going to be more range taking. You can go from like that 19 gauge wire of the trace safe wire. That's a 19 gauge on the inside to we'll say copperhead, which has copper clad steel wire. Typically a 12 gauge is being used. You can put that into that connector. So we're trying to stay very strong in the locating side of things. A lot of legislation has changed over the years where there's more accountability due to somebody hitting a gas line and something exploding, somebody getting hurt or killed. So that network, whatever utility is, it needs to be locatable. So we're doing a lot more stuff on that side of things. Any other? Again, all we're trying to do is improve the reliability of the network. So if you have customers or independents that you're working with and they're having any type of issue, like, oh, we had failures because of this. Example is we do a span clamp. It's a little more expensive than, let's say, allied bolt or Clean Senior. They have like a little aluminum one that goes onto the strand or to the figure 8 cable up in the air. And now with all the fiber going on, they're doing a lot of overlashing. Years ago, what happens when you use that type of clamp, you have to skin where the strand is. You put this little cement on the connector and you stick it on there. And then you hang your drop. So this midspan drop to your house. Well, what happened out in Ameritech, which is now AT&T in the middle part of the country, they had a technician put his ladder up on that drop to go do some work, and that midspan popped off. So we developed a clamp that has like little teeth that go around it, so it can't pop off. You know, that guy was killed. So there's things like that. They still use that. AT&T still uses that today. Any other questions? All righty. Is that it?
Yeah, if there are no other questions, everyone is free to leave. Again, John, thank you for walking us through some of these products.
No
we
problem.
really
I was just going to say, if anybody wants any type of literature or PDFs or whatever of any of these products that you want to show your customers, just let Tim and myself know, and we'll get you some. We'll get you something, or samples. If you want samples that you want to show customers, let me know. We'll get you samples.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, John.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everybody from Millennium that attended. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.